Welcome on into the Wolverine recruiting show. Clayton Safey here with EJ Holland. We are going to talk Michigan football recruiting, of course. We'll talk about Michigan's newest commit in the class of 2022. We will discuss Jim Harbaugh and some staff members hitting the road for the first time during the high school football season to get some in-person evaluations, show face at games of some top targets. And we will also discuss quarterback recruiting. Michigan has Jaden Denegal in their 2022 class, but looks like that board could be expanding, possibly take a second guy. We'll get to that as well. But let's start with Deuce Spurlock, a three-star linebacker out of Alabama who was on his visit here in Ann Arbor over the weekend. Comes up and leaves a Michigan commit. EJ, I guess how did this whole thing go down? You put in a future cast days in advance ahead of this one, but how did this one go down?
Yeah, so I put in a future cast, I want to say exactly a week before he committed. At that point, Michigan was starting to, or just in the days leading up to last Sunday, Michigan was already making a stronger push for him. Michigan fans should remember that Michigan was the favorite for Spurlock in the summer. However, the Wolverines decided to prioritize some other options. They really made a strong push for Jeremy Patton, who had one of the weirdest recruitments of the cycle, and decided to listen to some divine intervention and committed to Baylor. And then you had Sebastian Cheeks go off to North Carolina. You had already missed on Joshua Burnham. So the only viable big-time target left on the board is Lander Barton, four-star linebacker from Utah. However, Barton is more of a long shot. So in order to not strike out, I think Michigan said, look, we really like Deuce Spurlock in the summer. He came here, he worked out, he impressed, we offered. We did have some other guys on the board. But hey, Lander Barton's not a guarantee at all. We need to take someone that we really like and fill this hole. And so they ended up making a strong push for Spurlock. They prioritized him. So the day I put in a future cast that Sunday, he already had told the staff that he was planning to commit on his official visit. So he made an official visit over the weekend, went ahead and made it public on Sunday morning. And it was interesting because Auburn offered him on Friday night, and he's a kid from Alabama. So, that an in-state offer can be big. He had visited Auburn the week before, and they balked on an offer. So it came Friday night, but it didn't really change anything. He went ahead and stuck with his commitment, and like I said, made it public on Sunday morning. And so now Michigan has two really upside inside linebackers into Spurlock and Aaron Alexander.
Yeah, let's talk about that because you mentioned obviously there are some guys that were higher up on the board than Deuce Spurlock. Lander Barton is one of those guys that they're going to continue to pursue. They've missed on a few others, but I guess what is Michigan getting in Deuce Spurlock? What do you like about his game?
Well, Spurlock's, an intriguing athlete, much like Aaron Alexander. They're kind of around the same size, about 6'2", 210 or so. They're both really athletic. They're both really fast. If you watch Spurlock's tape, he's all over the field. He runs great sideline to sideline. He's just fast straight line in general. He tested well when he was up at Michigan, and he's ultra productive. This past game in Clayton's commit roundup, he had recorded 21 tackles. Which
I thought it had to be an error, so I had to double check that. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, so he's really productive. He's fast. He's just, and again, he covers a lot of ground. But he's just raw. I think right now he's more of an athlete out there, just playing, a little reckless and just trying to find the ball carrier and make a stop. But I think Michigan can teach him how to be disciplined, how to play assignment football, how to really fit in within their scheme. And it's going to be kind of the same with Aaron Alexander, who Clayton saw earlier this season. Has a lot of natural ability, but still very, very raw from an actual, linebacker position standpoint. So both of these guys share, again, similar attributes, and that's really what they're looking for in their inside linebackers, guys that can cover a lot of ground, that are speedier athletes, that can add some weight and muscle mass, and that have a lot of upside. So that's definitely what they're getting in both Spurlock and Alexander, even though they're lower rated kids, with Spurlock being a low 3-star and Alexander being a 2-star. I think that these guys are guys the staff evaluated on campus and just really, really liked in terms of athletic ability.
From a team perspective, I think linebacker recruiting is going to get a lot better, because Michigan is showing on film and is going to be able to show to some of these guys on film that the linebacker position is extremely important in this defense. You look at, kind of what the linebackers have done. Josh Ross is a guy that they're going to be able to show to recruits that, hey, basically the defense, and they talked about this, flows through the linebackers to come downhill, run sideline to sideline, make some plays. So I think it's going to improve a little bit. Maybe it'll take a cycle, as we talk about, maybe 2023 is when it'll heat up a little bit. But George Hilo and Mike McDonald right now, from a team's perspective, are doing a really good job with the linebackers who are playing super well. Junior Colson, your boy, has come in and made an impact. So there's a lot of good things you can show recruits. They got a few young guys there, so maybe that's also something that kids are considering as well in terms of playing time. But let's shift over to the offensive side of the ball to quarterbacks. The Wolverines, as I mentioned at the top of the show, have Jaden Denegal committed as a quarterback. Kind of a guy that will come in after J.J. McCarthy, and not necessarily that elite land like J.J. was, but is going to be a guy that you could probably work with, and he could contribute potentially down the road. Now it looks like Michigan may and is pursuing a second quarterback in this class. Who are some names to know there, and what are your thoughts on Michigan deciding that they might want to take two in this class?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just the nature of the position. You might not have a lot of depth there one day because guys decide to enter the transfer portal. Only one guy can be the quarterback of your team. So I think that's becoming more and more common with the rise of popularity of the transfer portal, is just, taking multiple quarterback commits and guys hopping in and out of the portal. And even if you don't take multiple quarterback commits, there might be a year where you take a regular commit and you take a transfer. So I think there's just so much movement at the quarterback position that it's at least beneficial to see what other options are out there, especially when you have a guy like Jaden Denegal, who is more, again, of a raw upside type of guy. So I flew out to California to see him this summer at a private training session, and he has a really good arm. I really like his size. He's cut down some weight. He was at about 6'4", 6'5", 238 pounds, and he's slimmed down to about 218. So he's still a bigger guy, but he's more athletic. If you've seen some of, again, Clayton's commit roundups, he's a guy that's also producing on the ground, so he can pull and run on different reads. He can make plays with his legs, but he's still more of a pro style guy than a dual guy. Again, he has a bigger arm. Arm strength is obviously a plus. But he needs to keep improving on his accuracy, his decision-making, his timing. He does have quite a few interceptions to start off his senior season. So, Michigan's exploring what's out there. And a guy they really, really liked in the summer, who I think was ahead of Denegal on the board, was Justin Martin. Martin ended up committing to Cal and decommitted recently. Michigan immediately reached out. They were trying to get him on campus this weekend. It didn't really work out, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does make it to campus eventually. He's a guy that is also considering UCLA and Ole Miss. And then there are a few other guys they're evaluating that could get offered. I think Martin's the primary guy on the board right now. And there's also a scenario where they don't take a second quarterback, where they just keep Denegal. This is a weird cycle in terms of the quarterback position, just because you did bring in J.J. McCarthy last cycle. You're putting all your eggs in the Dante Moore basket for 2023. So it's going to be difficult for someone already to come in after J.J. and then potentially know that they're going to be sandwiched with Dante Moore if Michigan's lucky enough to land him. So that's kind of where things stand right now. I think Michigan's just exploring its options and doing its homework and doing the right thing at a position where there's always movement.
How aware, that's kind of interesting point you made about, factoring Dante Moore in, even for a 2022 kid. How aware would a 2022 be of Dante Moore when they look at Michigan? Because he's not a slam dunk for Michigan to land. Obviously they're in a good spot, but I guess, how much do they look at that?
I think, if quarterback recruits are doing their research, they have and are strongly considering Michigan, they have to be fully aware of Dante Moore. I mean, he is the prize of next cycle, not only at the quarterback position, but overall. And I feel like, you look at Dante Moore and he is the guy. He gets all the headlines. He's all over Michigan, stuff on social media, on recruiting sites. So I think if these guys do their homework, they have to really be aware that Dante Moore is the guy for next cycle. And obviously they know JJ has, all the hype in the world. So, it's kind of tough to be sandwiched between those guys. But like you said, it's not a guarantee that they land Dante Moore, but I think perception sometimes matters more than reality. And there's a perception that Dante Moore is going to end up at Michigan since he's the only guy that they're recruiting. And so, I think guys are aware of that.
Yeah, definitely. And moving on with quarterback recruiting and kind of heading into where the staff has been over the last week, they were a little more quiet the first 3 weeks of the season, but last Friday night heading out on the road, and that leads us to where I was to see 2024 quarterback target CJ Carr, the grandson of Lloyd Carr, the son of Jason Carr, former Michigan quarterback. Lloyd, obviously, former head coach, won a national championship here. Jim Harbaugh was there. Matt Weiss was there in attendance to show their support, get an in-person evaluation, which have been few and far between over the last 18 months or so. Matt Weiss has seen CJ a couple times at the Michigan camp. He saw him at the Eastern Michigan Prospect Camp back in June, and they wanted to get another look at him. CJ threw 4 touchdowns in that game, all in the first half. I think it was 53-6. Or right around there win. So he got taken out at halftime. He was cheering his boys on in the second half. But a really good performance. Only a few incompletions by CJ. Things were pretty pinpoint. Again, this wasn't a great defense he was facing in Ann Arbor Skyline, but it was an impressive performance. He's got the size. He has a big arm. A lot of people asked when they originally offered him, is this an offer that is just because he's a legacy, or is this a legit offer? And EJ, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we both are in the camp that he is a legit offer. And he kind of is showing that here. Only a sophomore, is going to get better and better, kind of plays more like a veteran type of player at this point at the quarterback position for Saline. State title contender at 5-0. So overall, a really good performance. We got the highlights of CJ on our YouTube channel here as well. So check that out if you missed that. EJ, the staff, Harbaugh and Weiss were not the only guys to hit the road on Friday. Where was everybody else? And then, you can talk about as well your travels, seeing Amarion Walker, Notre Dame athlete commit who Michigan is continuing to pursue.
Yeah, definitely. So the staff was on the road. Like you said, Harbaugh and Weiss were checking out CJ Carr there in Ann Arbor. So the way it works and why you haven't seen Michigan on the road as much to start off the season is you only get a certain number of visits per school. So they're limited and they're capped on the amount of games they can see, one. And two, if you see a kid live, let's say you see him, this month. So Steve Klinkscale went out and saw Will Johnson. They can't see another Will Johnson game until November 27th. So, for example, if Harbaugh wanted to see Will Johnson, he couldn't go out there until November. So it's kind of stupid NCAA rules, just capped on the amount of times they can go out to games and capped on the amount of times they can see certain recruits. And so, they had to work around that. So they waited until a few weeks into the season where they had a home game that wasn't an 11 a.m. kickoff, where they felt like, okay, let's send some guys on the road. And not every coach went on the road. It was only a handful of guys. So again, Harbaugh and Weiss went out to see CJ Carr. I think the biggest one was Sean Nua making the trip out to Merrillville, Indiana, which is about 45 minutes outside of Chicago. So he had a little bit of a drive. And saw Michigan's top 2022 defensive tackle target, Kenneth Grant. And I think this is significant because it shows that, they set Nua on the longest journey, and they used up their visit to see Kenneth Grant in game now because they're really trying to close with him. Again, he remains a top overall priority. Sean Nua has done a really good job of building a great relationship with him. They've gotten him on campus 3 times since June. And I think Michigan continues to be the favorite here. They just have to close the door. And I think it was good to get Nua out to Merrillville to see Kenneth Grant. You also had Steve Clinkscale, like I mentioned, out on the road, seeing Will Johnson. Will continues to be solid. He's at every home game. Nothing to really worry about with Will. And, he also made his way over to Harper Woods, which is home of 2024 defensive back Jacob Oden, who already has a Michigan offer and is quickly becoming one of Michigan's top underclassmen targets. And, Harper Woods is also home to 2022 Michigan wide receiver commit Tayshawn Trent. So, those guys were the guys that hit the road. And I think you'll see all staff members on the road when Michigan has its bye week. I'm told they're ready to make a full out blitz when that week comes next month. And I'm also told that Ron Bellamy is going to make a Louisiana swing. So he wasn't there out this week, but I was out there this week. So I went out to New Orleans to see Amorion Walker. Like you said, currently committed to Notre Dame. Michigan really working hard to flip him. He's an intriguing athlete. He's at about 6'3", 6'4", 170, 175 pounds. He ran a 4.4 at Alabama's camp, which caught everybody's attention. So he's a super long, thin athlete that can add some weight and some strength, but he definitely has some athletic attributes that you really like. Seeing him in game, again, he's that tall, long kid. His catch radius is tremendous. He prefers to play wide receiver, so he can go up and get it. You see in this clip, he draws a pass interference. He ran a lot of go routes. A guy that can play multiple positions, though. He also saw some time on the defensive side of the ball playing corner. I thought he looked a little more fluid there, even at his size. But overall, just a really intriguing athlete and one of Michigan's top remaining priorities this cycle. Ron Bellamy is from Louisiana. He played for Amorion's high school coach, Hank Tierney, back in the day. And that connection, I think, is really helping Michigan. So if I could put in a flip pick, which rivals won't let me for whatever stupid reason, I would have done it a long time ago. And I feel confident that Michigan can eventually get him on board.
There you go. That Louisiana pipeline with Ron Bellamy and the rest of the Michigan staff going after. And it'd be a significant development to flip a Notre Dame commit. It would kind of ruffle the feathers a little bit down there in South Bend, which, EJ, I know you enjoy quite a bit. So there you have it. That's our recruiting show for this week. You can follow along at thewolverine.com for 24/7 updates on Michigan football recruiting, Michigan basketball. So we'll see everybody over there.